Have you ever wondered, do vampires really exist? Or are they just legends blown out of proportion from strange diseases? In a biological treatise on vampirism, we'll dissect every biological and scientific angle behind vampirism, from bizarre illnesses and parasites to genetic theories. Promise, it's scarier than a horror movie, but backed by science. If you think this topic is both bloody and brainy, smash that like button to keep us going, and subscribe so you won't miss any of our future science but fun videos. There are shadows in the corners of our world. Not the simple absence of light, but active, breathing voids where our understanding ends and a more ancient reality begins. We have given them names over the millennia: ghoul, strigoi, demon, vampire. We've relegated them to folklore, to the flickering silver screen, to the pages of Gothic novels. We have made them safe by making them fictional. This was a comfort I once shared. I, too, believed the night held no monsters other than those of our own making. I was a biologist, a man of data and replicable results. The world, to me, was a magnificent but ultimately knowable machine. Then I saw the machine break. My colleague, Dr. Aris Thorne, a man whose intellect was matched only by his skepticism, disappeared from a locked, 7th-floor research lab. There was no forced entry. The only thing out of place was a single, shattered beaker on the floor and a faint, coppery scent in the air that the cleaning crew couldn't quite scrub away. The official report cited a psychotic break. Aris, they claimed, had simply walked away. But I knew Aris. He wouldn't walk away. He would be dragged. I spent the next 5 years of my life chasing a ghost, following whispers of impossible sightings and unexplained exsanguinations across 3 continents. I sacrificed my career, my reputation, my comfortable belief in a rational world. And in a forgotten sanatorium in the Swiss Alps, I found not Aris, but his research. And within it, the answer. An answer that is not supernatural, but terrifyingly biological. An answer that proves the monsters are real. They are not undead spirits. They are the next step in predatory evolution. They are the result of a virus that rewrites the very source code of what it means to be human. Tonight, I am breaking a vow of silence kept by a handful of scientists and historians for generations. Because the shadows are growing longer, and ignorance is no longer a shield, it is a death sentence. I ask you to suspend your disbelief, to open your mind to a biological paradigm that operates just beyond our perception. For to understand the predator, we must first dissect it. This is the biology of the vampire. To begin, we must discard the romantic notion of a dark gift or a demonic pact. The transformation into what my hidden community of researchers has classified as homines nocturnus nocturnal moles, not a matter of sorcery, but of virology. The agent is a pathogen of breathtaking sophistication, the human vampiric virus, or HVV. HVV is a retrovirus, but not in the way we commonly understand it, like HIV. While HIV inserts its genetic code into the host's DNA, HVV is far more ambitious. Think of it as a master key and a renovation crew all in one. It belongs to a theoretical class we call integrative retroviruses. It doesn't just add a few lines of code. It systematically unlocks, edits, and overwrites vast sections of the human genome. The primary vector, as suspected in folklore, is fluid exchange, primarily saliva entering the bloodstream. The virus is fragile outside the host, unable to survive on surfaces for more than a few seconds. But once inside, it is a biological marvel. Its outer shell is studded with glycoproteins that mimic human hormones, allowing it to bypass the initial immune response. It doesn't trigger the alarm bells. It walks right in the front door. The infection process is a masterclass in cellular espionage. Unlike a lytic virus that turns a cell into a factory and then bursts it open, or a lysogenic virus that lies dormant, HVV engages in a process we've termed symbiotic hijacking upon entering a cell, a process called endocytosis, where the cell membrane literally engulfs the virus, releases its payload of RNA and a unique suite of enzymes. One of these enzymes, a hyper-efficient reverse transcriptase, converts the viral RNA into DNA. But here is the genius of its design. It doesn't just integrate randomly. It carries with it address markers, specific genetic sequences that seek out and bind to corresponding promoter regions in the human genome, F-on switches for entire families of genes. It targets genes related to growth, metabolism, neurodevelopment, and cellular repair. Once docked, it doesn't just insert itself. It uses a complex of proteins to snip out the existing human regulatory gene and replace it with its own viral version. Imagine a vandal breaking into a power station. A clumsy vandal smashes the controls. HVV doesn't smash anything. It sits down at the control panel, reads the schematics, and begins rerouting the city's power grid for its own purposes. The cell continues its normal functions, repairing its membrane, producing proteins, but its higher directives are now issued by the virus. It is no longer just a human cell. It is a hybrid, a viral chimera. This process, this cellular rewriting, happens with terrifying speed. The virus first targets the thyroid and adrenal glands. The infected glands flood the body with hormones, sending the metabolism into overdrive. This hypermetabolic state serves a dual purpose. It accelerates the distribution of the virus throughout the entire body via the bloodstream, and it provides the massive energy required for the coming transformation. Within 6 hours, every tissue system, from bone marrow to the optic nerve, is compromised. The only cells it cannot infect are erythrocyted blood cells, as they lack a nucleus and the machinery it needs to replicate. This is a crucial detail we will return to. Where did such a pathogen originate? This question has plagued us. The prevailing theory, supported by genetic analysis of the virus itself, points to a zoonotic leap, a jump from animal to human, but not from a bat, as the popular myth suggests. The Draculine anticoagulant found in their saliva is a case of convergent evolution. No, the genetics of HVV point to something far stranger. It contains genetic fragments that are homologous to sequences found in certain deep-sea extremophile archaeomicrobes that thrive in the crushing pressure and toxic heat of hydrothermal vents. It also contains sequences eerily similar to those used by the Toxoplasma gondii parasite, which famously alters the behavior of its host. Our working hypothesis is what we call the deep ancestry anomaly. We speculate that many millions of years ago, a primordial version of this virus infected an early, deep ocean organism. Through unimaginable spans of time and countless hosts, it evolved, collecting useful genetic tools like a morbid scavenger. It learned cellular repair from extremophiles, neural manipulation from parasites, and rapid mutation from other viruses. Eventually, it found its way into a terrestrial host, and then, thousands of years ago, in a perfect storm of environmental pressure and genetic compatibility, it made the leap to Homo sapiens. It was not designed for us, but it was perfectly prepared by 1 billion years of evolution to remake us in its image. The 12 to 24 hours following the complete systemic infection are what we term the prodromal phase. The victim experiences what appears to be a severe case of influenza, but amplified to an agonizing degree. Fever that can cause hallucinations, bone-deep chills, violent tremors. The hypermetabolism causes profuse sweating, extreme thirst, and rapid heart rate. This is the body's last, futile rebellion. It's burning itself out trying to fight an enemy that is already part of it. Then, the second stage begins. The victim collapses, not into unconsciousness, but into what we call the vampiric coma. This is no peaceful slumber. It is a biological crucible, a state of such violent, accelerated transformation that the mortality rate is staggering. The very young and the old almost never survive. Their systems cannot withstand the strain. The ideal candidate is a healthy human between the ages of 18 and 35, a body at its peak, with the resources to endure the storm. To understand the sheer horror of this process, let me share a historical account I uncovered from the private journal of a Dr. Alastair Finch, dated 1788, London. He was attending to a young noblewoman, Eleanor Vance, believed to be suffering from brain fever. Day 3. Miss Vance's condition defies all reason. Her fever rages, yet her skin is clammy and cool to the touch. She convulses as if touched by St. Vitus's dance, her limbs thrashing with a strength that belies her delicate frame. She cries out in her slumber, not words, but guttural sounds of profound agony. We have bled her twice to no effect. Her pulse is a chaotic drum, then silence, then a flutter again. It is as if her body is at war with itself, every fiber being unstrung and rewoven upon some demonic loom. Dr. Finch was, unknowingly, a perfect observer. The demonic loom was the HVV, executing its grand redesign. Inside the comatose body, a symphony of cellular change is occurring. First, the skeletal system. The virus activates dormant genes for bone growth, similar to those active during puberty, but on a hyper-accelerated scale. Osteoblasts, the cells that build bone, work furiously, depositing new material along the long bones of the arms and legs, leading to the gracile, elongated limbs often depicted in folklore. The mandible, the lower jaw, widens slightly to accommodate the dental changes to come. Simultaneously, the muscular system is being torn down and rebuilt. Myocytes, muscle cells, undergo apoptosis-programmed cell death on a massive scale. Then satellite cells, the stem cells of muscle tissue, are activated. Guided by the new viral genetic code, they don't just replace the old muscle, they build a new kind. The ratio of slow-twitch endurance fibers to fast-twitch explosive fibers flips from roughly 50/50ths in a normal human to an astonishing 90% fast-twitch in a vampire. Myoglobin and mitochondria, the components that allow for oxygen storage and energy production, are multiplied within these new cells. This is the origin of their terrifying speed and strength. The most profound changes occur in the nervous system. The brain is flooded with growth factors, sparking a wave of neurogenesis. New neural pathways are forged while others are pruned away. The corpus callosum, the bridge between the brain's hemispheres, thickens, allowing for near-instantaneous communication between them. This is not just enhancement, it is a complete cognitive rewiring. Dr. Finch's journal continues. Day 4. The agony has ceased. She lies still now, pale as marble. So still, I feared she had passed in the night. There is no discernible pulse, no breath to fog a mirror. Her family is preparing for her burial. Yet, as I made my final examination, I saw it. Beneath her closed eyelids, her eyes were in constant, rapid motion, and her skin. Beneath the skin of her arms and legs, there is a faint, rhythmic shuddering, like a nest of worms. I confess a terrible, unholy dread has seized me. This is not death. This is a chrysalis. Finch was right. The heart has stopped. The lungs are still. The new circulatory system is coming online. From this point forward, blood will not be pumped by a central, beating heart. It will be moved by the rhythmic, involuntary contractions of the new skeletal muscular process known as fasciculation. This wave-like peristalsis is less efficient at rest, leading to the cold skin and faint tremors Finch observed, but far more effective during exertion. The atrophying heart is a vestigial organ. Toward the end of the coma, the final, most iconic change occurs. Ameloblasts, the cells that form tooth enamel, are reactivated in the canines. They travel through the dentin and deposit new, hardened enamel onto the tips, extending them into sharp, efficient points. When the victim finally awakens, almost always at night, their new circadian rhythm, now hardwired, they are no longer human. They are a new organism, born into a state of profound confusion, paranoia, and an all-consuming, agonizing thirst. The first moments are critical. The brain is a supercomputer running brand new, untested software. It's overwhelmed by sensory input. The thirst is not just a desire, it's a biological imperative, a screaming deficit of the specific proteins and compounds their new body needs to stabilize. This is when they are most dangerous, an infant predator with the strength of 10 men and a hunger that eclipses reason. To survive, to hunt, Homines nocturnus is equipped with a biological arsenal that renders our human senses and physical abilities tragically inadequate. Let us dissect this toolkit, piece by piece. Subsection A. The rewired mind. The vampire brain is the most complex computational device on the planet. The hypertrophy of the visual cortex and the amygdala, coupled with the increased interneuron density, creates a mind that processes the world at a fundamentally different level. Their pattern recognition is not just good, it's borderline prophetic. They see the subtle tells in your body language, the slight hesitation in your voice, the micro-expressions you don't even know you're making. They can extrapolate your next move from a dozen tiny, unconscious signals. This is the source of their hypnotic abolitionist mind control, but hyperacute perception used for masterful manipulation. However, this comes at a cost. The reduction in serotonin and the rewiring of the dopamine system, which now provides an intense, opioid-like pleasure response to the act of feeding, makes them prone to obsessive, compulsive behaviors. The legends of vampires needing to count spilled seeds or untie knots are not entirely fiction. It's an external manifestation of a brain desperate for order in a sea of overwhelming sensory data. They find comfort in patterns, in counting, in arrangement. It's a psychological anchor. Their reflexes are a product of this new brain married to a new body. Their motor nerve axons are nearly twice as thick as a human's, wrapped in a denser myelin sheath. The signal from brain to muscle travels at a speed we can barely measure. To us, they seem to vanish and reappear. To them, our frantic actions appear as if we're moving through water. Subsection B. The hunter's senses. Let's talk about sight. Humans are trichromats. We have 3 types of cone cells in our eyes for red, green, and blue light. Vampires are tetrachromats. The virus modifies a population of rod cells, the cells we use for night vision, into a 4th type of cone, one tuned to the near-infrared spectrum. This means they can see heat. A terrified human, heart pounding, blood rushing to the surface, would glow like a beacon in their vision. The tapetum lucidum, a reflective layer behind the retina similar to a cat's, amplifies every stray photon, giving them unparalleled night vision. This brings us to the myth of the crucifix. It has nothing to do with faith and everything to do with neurogeometry. The vampire visual cortex is so heavily optimized for processing natural, chaotic environments that it has a critical flaw. Its neural pathways for recognizing horizontal and vertical lines are cross-wired and hypersensitized. When a vampire is confronted with the symbol of perfect, intersecting right angles like a cross, or even a window beneath that occupies a significant portion of their central field of vision, the signals create a recursive, positive feedback loop. It's a neuroelectrical seizure. The brain's visual processing center is literally short-circuiting. Over the centuries, they have adapted. They learned to use their peripheral vision to keep such symbols out of sharp focus. But a large, well-lit cross-thrust suddenly before them can still be debilitating. It is not a holy ward, it is a weaponized optical illusion. Their hearing and smell are similarly magnified. They can hear a human heartbeat from across a quiet room. They can smell the adrenaline in your sweat. Hiding from a hunting vampire is, for all practical purposes, impossible. They are tracking you on a sensory spectrum you cannot even perceive. To make this less abstract, I will share an excerpt from a debriefing with Marcus Thorne, the brother of my former colleague Aris. Marcus was a Special Forces operator who, after his brother's disappearance, joined our community. He was part of a team tasked with containing a newly turned, and therefore highly unstable, vampire in a Chicago subway depot. We knew it was fast. We didn't understand what that meant. We had the depot locked down, night vision on, 4-man fire team. The target was a kid, a 20-year-old finance intern who'd been attacked 2 nights prior. We found him in a maintenance tunnel. He was just standing there, pale, eyes so wide the iris was just a sliver of color. I gave the signal. We moved in. The moment our beams hit him, he flinched, but not away. He looked irritated. Evans, on my right, raised his rifle. Before he could even shoulder it properly, the kid was on him. It wasn't a run. It was a single, fluid movement that covered 20 feet. There was a sound like a wet crunch. Evans went down. It saw in the dark better than our NVGs. We fired. The muzzle flashes must have been agony for it, but it moved between them. It was like trying to shoot lightning. It wasn't just fast, it was smart. It used the pillars for cover, but not just to hide. It ricocheted off them, changing direction, using the geometry of the room against us. I saw it glance at the cross-hatching on the steel grate and immediately recoil, giving us a precious second. It was a glitch in its programming. It didn't make noise when it moved. No heavy footfalls, no breathing. Just the whisper of clothes and the wet sounds when it struck. We lost 2 men in 10 seconds. It wasn't a fight. It was pest control, and we were the pests. I only survived because I threw a high-lumen flare into its face. The shriek it made. It wasn't human. The sensory overload stunned it long enough for me to get out. It didn't just outfight us. It outthought us in real time. It was processing the battle space at a speed we couldn't comprehend. SGT. Thorne's testimony is a stark reminder. We are not dealing with a stronger human. We are dealing with a different class of predator altogether. So, why blood? Why this incredibly specific, inefficient, and dangerous food source? The answer lies in one of the virus's own limitations. In its aggressive rewriting of the human genome, the HVV damages or deletes the gene responsible for producing protocadherin gamma C3, or PCDHYC3. This is a real protein, crucial for neural synapse development and maintenance in hominids. It is found nowhere else in the animal kingdom. Without a constant, external supply of this specific protein, a vampire's hypercomplex nervous system will begin to degrade. The connections fray. It leads to cascading viral reactivation, seizures, madness, and finally, a liquefactive necrosis of the brain. They are not addicted to blood in a psychological sense. They are dependent on it for their physical survival. Human blood is the only viable source. Their digestive system is a marvel of specialization. The stomach atrophies, becoming little more than a temporary holding pouch. The intestines shorten dramatically. Their true digestive organ becomes their gut microbiome. Over the first few years of their existence, the HVV facilitates the growth of a unique symbiotic colony of bacteria in their gut. These microbes are masters of biochemistry. They break down blood cells, deftly extracting the PCDHYC3 protein, metabolizing the dangerously high levels of iron, and converting the nitrogen waste into manageable urea, which is then excreted. This specialized gut flora also provides a powerful, adaptive immune defense, rendering the vampire virtually immune to any blood-borne pathogens their prey might be carrying. The legend of a vampire draining a victim dry in seconds is a physical impossibility. The vampire stomach can only hold about 1.5 liters of fluid. A full feeding is a slow, methodical process, often taking place over an hour or more, with frequent breaks to urinate the processed waste. It's during this vulnerable time that they are most often discovered. This brings us to their most coveted and cursed trait, immortality. It's not true immortality, but rather biological agelessness. Two key mechanisms are at play. First, the virus dramatically upregulates the production of telomerase, an enzyme that rebuilds the protective caps telomeres at the end of our chromosomes. In humans, these caps shorten with each cell division, leading to aging and cell death. In vampires, they are constantly repaired. Second, their cells are flooded with the antioxidant enzyme catalase. This enzyme neutralizes free radicals, the rogue molecules that cause oxidative damage to our DNA, from things as simple as metabolism and as complex as background radiation. By preventing both chromosomal shortening and DNA damage, the vampire body simply doesn't age. But imagine this: a mind prone to obsession, trapped in a body that cannot die, dependent on hunting the very species it once belonged to, living for centuries, watching the world change, watching everyone you might have ever known turn to dust, forced into periods of long hibernation, a state of suspended animation they can enter for decades, even centuries, to allow their food source to repopulate. It is not a gift. It is an eternity of hunger, loneliness, and repetition, a prison of perfect, unending flesh. How have they remained hidden? Through a combination of their own intelligence, our willful disbelief, and the distortion of truth into myth. Let's correct the record. Sunlight. Vampires do not combust in sunlight. This is pure fiction, likely born from a desire for a simple, powerful weapon against them. However, their light-sensitive eyes make direct sunlight excruciatingly painful. A vampire caught in the open on a bright day would be effectively blind and disoriented, but not destroyed. Garlic, entirely a myth. It has no effect whatsoever. Its origins are likely tied to its historical use as an apotropaic ward against general evil in many European cultures. Shapeshifting. They cannot turn into bats or mist. This is a romantic exaggeration of their incredible speed and stealth. To a terrified 17th century peasant, a figure that can scale a castle wall in seconds and vanish into the shadows might as well be a creature of the night taking flight. Reflections. They have reflections. The myth of them not appearing in mirrors likely stems from two sources. First, early mirrors were made of polished silver, which poorly reflected their pale skin in low light. Second, and more poetically, it was a metaphor. How can a creature that has lost its soul, its humanity, cast a human reflection? Thresholds. The idea that they cannot enter a home uninvited is the most interesting distortion. It's not a magical barrier. It is a confluence of their psychology and the crucifix glitch. A vampire's obsessive, paranoid mind makes it hesitant to enter an unknown, confined spatio-potential trap. Furthermore, a traditional home is a geometric minefield of right angles, door frames, window panes, furniture, floor tiles. To enter a well-lit modern home would be to walk into a hall of sensory torture. They are not mystically barred. They are psychologically and neurologically repelled. They need to be invited in, to be guided through the safe paths, to acclimate their minds to the hostile geometry. Do they have a society? Not in any way we would recognize. Their biology makes them solitary predators. They are territorial. Their hyper-aware minds would likely find the constant proximity of another of their kind to be an unbearable sensory overload. They may recognize each other, maintain vast distances, and perhaps even communicate over generations through cryptic messages or markings, but they do not form covens. They are a species of apex predators, and apex predators rarely hunt in packs. For years, my community has debated our purpose. Are we protectors, tasked with hunting this species to extinction? Or are we curators, tasked with studying and understanding what is, by all accounts, a miracle of evolution? I have come to believe we must be both. The human vampiric virus is real. The creatures it makes are walking among us. They are not evil in the way a demon is evil. A lion is not evil for hunting a gazelle. It is a predator, acting on a biological imperative. The vampire is the same, only its prey is us. They are a paradox, a creature of breathtaking intelligence and biological perfection, whose very existence is a testament to suffering and a dependency on predation. My search for Ares Thorn ended in that Swiss sanatorium. I found his final note. He had not been attacked. He had been infected. And in a moment of what I can only describe as terrifying scientific clarity, he chose to document his own transformation until the very end, before taking his own life rather than letting the hunger take hold. His final words were not a warning. They were a plea. It is not a curse. It is a biological problem. And all biological problems have solutions. Don't hunt the shadow. Understand the mechanism. Understand it, and you can defeat it. Don't let fear be our extinction. This is the ultimate lesson. The vampire holds up a mirror to us. It shows us our fear of the unknown, our fear of disease, our fear of that which is stronger and faster than we are. But it also shows us our greatest strength. The monster operates on instinct and ancient programming. We operate on reason, collaboration, and the relentless pursuit of knowledge. They are the perfect predator. We are the adaptable survivors. The history of this planet has shown time and again which one ultimately endures. Open your eyes. Look for the signs. The unexplained disappearances. The person at the edge of the crowd who never seems to blink. The profound stillness in a world of motion. Do not be afraid. Be aware. Be prepared. Because they have been studying us for millennia. It is time we started studying them. And the hunt is not over. It's just beginning.